Manhattan's tallest building is drawing criticism from New Yorkers. It's over a decision to honor the 60th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party's takeover of China by shining red and yellow lights.
The totalitarian dictatorship should not be honored by the Empire State Building tonight.
Protesters are red with anger over the Empire State Building's decision to honor China's Red Revolution. For the past 2 nights, these red and yellow lights, representing the Communist Party's flag, beamed atop Manhattan's tallest building. Neither the Empire State Building nor the Chinese consulate would return phone calls on Thursday to comment on how the decision to show these lights was made. But Chinese consulate spokesman Gao Wenqi told the Huffington Post that it was, quote, a bilateral decision reached through a consensus between the building and the consulate. The same consulate that has worked to incite hate crimes on U.S. soil against groups like Falun Gong. And the same consulate that represents a regime that's caused tens of millions of deaths since it took over China exactly 60 years ago.
America does not support China's government because China's government is the enemy of democracy, enemy of human rights, enemy of freedom.
There's been a lot of discussion these days about the tight financial relationship between China and the United States. Well, at this rice shop in Hong Kong, I thought I'd take the opportunity to explain to you exactly what's at stake in this relationship. This jar represents the amount of debt or treasuries the U.S. had to issue in 2006 in order to finance its budget deficit. This rice represents China's money. 1 grain is the equivalent of $5 million US dollars. So in 2006, the Chinese lent the United States about this much, half. So let's talk now about 2008. The U.S. had to issue a lot more treasuries to finance its ballooning budget deficit. China bought about this much. So China bought 3 times more. It's a smaller percentage of the overall whole, but take a look at how much more debt the U.S. has. That's why the U.S. government is looking for buyers wherever they can find them, and China has a whole lot of cash.
And as you know, ABC News is always looking for ways to bring American jobs back to America. So this week, it was shocking to learn so many great infrastructure projects are underway in America, rebuilding bridges and roads in American cities, but they've hired Chinese firms and Chinese workers. Why? 2020 anchor Chris Cuomo is the captain of our Bringing America Back team, and he decided to track down those people who made these decisions.
Rebuilding America's crumbling infrastructure is now a priority.
Help us rebuild this bridge. Help us rebuild America. Help us put construction workers back to work.
In New York, a $400 million renovation of the Alexander Hamilton Bridge. In California, a whopper, a $7.2 billion new bridge to connect San Francisco and Oakland. And in Alaska, a proposed $190 million bridge project. Sounds like a great opportunity for government spending to actually lead to real jobs. The problem? Much of the work is going to Chinese government-owned contracting firms.
When we're subsidizing jobs in China, we're not creating any wealth in the United States.
In Alaska, outraged union workers took to the airwaves with an obvious point.
This is not the time to send more jobs to China. Our tax dollars will provide hundreds of jobs there, not at home.
U.S. law actually requires major infrastructure projects to buy America when the cost difference is reasonable. In California, U.S. firms say they would have met those guidelines, but state officials decided to turn down federal money for a major part of the bridge, allowing a Chinese company to get the job at a cost of almost 3,000 American jobs and a potential $1 billion boost to the struggling California economy.
Under Barack Hussein Obama, it has become increasingly difficult to do business in America unless you are from a foreign nation. Idaho, under the stewardship of Governor Butch Otter, has opened the door for a Chinese invasion wherein the sovereignty of Idaho and America will be sodomized by all parties involved. He goes on to say, Project 60 takes advantage of a federal program that grants federal program. This is something your congressman, your president, and everybody else agreed to and said, we think this is a good idea. Okay? It's a federal program that grants permanent residency to foreign nationals, in this case, Chinese. This program comes with special tax exemptions to the foreign firms moving here. American companies do not get the tax exemptions. So much for the Constitution and equal protection. Idaho is struggling financially, and it is widely known that America is broke, so why tax breaks for the Chinese? China wants to limit its exposure to America's debt. China needs to maintain its trade deficit so it does not collapse like a house of cards. In order to accomplish this, China must unload currency and excess dollars. Buying Idaho is a good way to accomplish this, but do not worry. China is looking to buying Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania as well. China will not allow its currency to become stronger, so it must eliminate some of America's IOUs. What better way to do this than buy America? Top Idaho officials have been traveling to China and entertaining the Chinese here in order to help facilitate this. Idaho is a resource-rich state, and the Chinese know it. And as does Obama, who keeps snatching Idaho land. Otter, Obama, and the attack on business in America paves the way for China to own us. A Chinese firm is building a fertilizer plant in America Falls, Idaho. Ironic, China has bought 50 square miles of land south of Boise, 30,000 acres of Idaho gone to foreign nationals. Governor Otter says this will help reinvigorate our American industrial base. Just how this will do it, since the plants will be staffed with foreign nationals, is a question that remains unanswered. Here's another one, and I want you to look at the Chinese flag for a minute. Okay? It's very, very important. China wants to construct a 50 square mile self-sustaining city south of Boise, Idaho. Thanks to the trillions of dollars that the Chinese have made flooding our stores with cheap products, China is now in a position of tremendous economic power. So what is China going to do with all that money? One thing that they have decided to do is to buy up pieces of the United States and set up special economic zones inside our country from which they can continue to extend their economic domination. One of these special economic zones would be just south of Boise, and the Idaho government is eager to give it to them. China National Machinery Industry Corporation, Sinomatch, or Sinomach for short, plans to construct a technology zone south of Boise Airport, which would ultimately be up to 50 square miles in size. The Chinese Communist Party is the majority owner of this company, so the 10 to 30,000 acre self-sustaining city that is being planned would essentially belong to the Chinese government. The planned self-sustaining city in Idaho would include manufacturing facilities, warehouses, retail centers, and large numbers of homes for Chinese workers. Basically, it would be a slice of communist China dropped right into the middle of the United States.
clears China's first U.S. bank takeover. So remember, we just covered an article recently about in Michigan, China City, basically being instituted. This is after a couple places out west. Basically, little China cities are coming to fruition. So the United States opened its banking market to China. China's biggest bank, ICBC, for the first time, clearing a takeover of a U.S. bank by a Chinese state-controlled company. Just days after high-level U.S.-China economic talks in Beijing, the Federal Reserve, which is a private cartel of banks, approved an application from Industrial and Commercial Bank of China to buy a majority stake in the U.S. subsidiary of Bank of East Asia. So these are the biggest trader sellouts. They don't really represent you. They never really did, but they're just kind of calling themselves federal, immersing themselves in government talks and discussions. But it says here the transaction will make ICBC the first China state-controlled bank to acquire retail bank branches in the United States, and it won't be the last.
为什么强大的国家都会走向灭亡呢？古希腊、罗马帝国、不列颠帝国、美国，因为他们都犯同样的错误，与原来使得他们成功的原则背道而驰。美国政府企图以庞大的开支和税收来摆脱严重的经济衰退，巨额的所谓刺激开支。庞大的医疗改革，政府接管私有企业，债务累累。当然，我们是他们的大债主。现在他们都得给我们干活。